Well, I believe that the audio isn't working, so I'm playing this video now, but I see that the audio isn't working. Sorry for that. So let's go back then to the normal introduction of Go2. No sound. Yeah, I noticed because I see the view meter. Yeah, that's always a bit tricky. Streaming on Windows, having a music program, it's always, as I call, a pain in the butt. Anyhow, so check this video later on, and maybe it's best that I simply start telling about what is Go2 about. Well, first of all, you will see that we have a prominent XY inside of it. And the reason for this is, of course, is that, well, you did notice that already in some other products of ours. Let me click, here it is. And this XY is, became pretty much a signature thing. The moment we started with Blade, that one had the first one, and then in Bluetooth you had this XY pad, and we had Predator 2. But in general, the idea about Go2 is to have a synthesizer which has everything visible. So you'll see here in Go2 we have the XY and oscillator combined. We have a filter, we have the play mode, filter envelope, amplifier, the FX section, arpeggiator, LFO envelope, and modulation matrix. This is all visual. The other page we have is the manager, the back manager you might know also maybe from Predator 2 or Subliminal Bass 2. And then there is the back panel, and the back panel offers some additional features. You, for instance, can have the big screen version selected, and the moment it's now released, and it's released together with the big screen version. So we have two sizes. Okay, let's go back to the main screen. Okay, let me see. Where should I start? Well, maybe it's an idea. Give me 1 second. Because maybe I'm just fiddling around here. Maybe I just crossed my mind. Maybe you can hear still the sound. Do you hear a sound now? Let me see. Okay, we have sound. Is that correct? Oh. So I'm gonna play now this introduction video, and I think that's really nice to do it first, and then we can go into detail. So I play again now the introduction video of Go2, and that tells in 5 minutes, very compact, what is all new inside of it. Much faster than I can do in 1 hour. No, still no sound. It's the system is messing up with me. Sorry guys, so forget it for now. I shut it down because it doesn't work. Now, okay, no sound. Yeah, I notice. Well, okay, Go2. So I showed the manager, the back manager, the back panel, and as you might know, we have many synthesizers, and for instance, if you go to Bluetooth, yeah, a lot of features, FM synthesis, subtractive, a range of samples, all kind of pages, multi-envelopes, yeah, you name it. So it's a very deep synthesizer. And if you are working with that type of synthesis, it's more difficult and not always as fast. And of course, the advantage of such a deep synthesizer like Bluetooth is, of course, that you can make all kind of different synthesizers. But sometimes a synthesizer which has less features can be still very interesting. And this is what we did miss in our catalog. We have mainly very deep synthesizers. I mean, Bluetooth, what you just saw, Predator 2, Subliminal Bass 2 has also a lot of additional new features like the model types, the sequencer with the wave sequencing. And this concept idea of Go2 is essentially to have a synthesizer, everything visual, but still very cool. And I think we succeeded in that. And maybe you can compare it also a bit with what we had in the early 80s. We had, for instance, the Jupiter 8 here. And the Jupiter 8 is a very deep synthesizer, but Roland also made the SH101, which you maybe know. And both have their own strong and weak points. And the cool thing about Go2 is everything is in front. And of course we did something special inside of it, which even Blue 2 or Predator 2 or Sublime Bass 2 doesn't have. And that's, for instance, inside the arpeggiator section. Okay, that's the wrong synth. We have now a new feature. It's inside this row, and it's also what you can hear now in the sound. Yeah, this is indeed what somebody says, less is more synth. Yeah, absolutely right about that. And by the way, I had originally also myself a Roland SA101. I did sell it because I didn't have any preset memory, which made me also always frustrated because he had a nice sound and you could not store it. But it was really a nice synth. So less is more is really the concept idea of Go2. So now what you hear now in this sound, it uses a unison chord and inside the arpeggiator, and that is very new. So I hit just one note. Let's see if you can see that, guys. Yeah. Because I just hit the camera up here. And in the sequencer, we have step on, step off. You can have add a tuning to it, velocity setting, slide on, off. But then we have an additional row, a new row, and you can see down here where you can select to have each step a different setting, unison, or for instance, a chord. And we added 16 type of chords. So now in this groove, you can hear that major sus4 is used, and step number 3 is set to set. Now if I set none, it's just a single. So you really can combine it. So now I combine step 1 is a chord and step 3 is a single note. So this is pretty new inside, I think, of any synthesizer. How to describe the sound of Go2? I think it's going, well, that sounds pretty much analog, but you can go any direction. We have, of course, because of this chord feature, some very nice grooves, very techno. And in this sequence, the ARP is playing and it only picks unison mode major 7 now, so it's only major 7 playing. So that's very cool with the groove. So here I can select a different. I can say, okay, let's take this in major sus7, sus4, sorry. Or let's say another one. Okay, let's just unison. Oh, so now I jumped to another page. So this makes it in the arpeggiator. You can do some very different stuff. Well, let's just play a few presets. Also here you can see step 1 is just a regular single note. And on step number 9, you have a -7 chord playing. That's really one of the main core powers of Go2, is that you can do some very different stuff. Let's play a few more presets. Now I go to the bank manager. So this is more digital sound. Somebody did mention how you can compare the sound of Go2. Yeah, you can go any direction, because Go2 has also in the amplifier section a distortion, and distortion is on voice level. So you can make really a very mean sound. Well, this synth has a lot of directions in terms of sounds. Okay, let's see. If you say, okay, I want to have a very nice pad sound. And then I can show you also different feature. Yeah, unlucky I could not play the tutorial. It's gonna be live at the end of the live stream. You can watch the tutorial, because what is good about the tutorial, it's very compact, and I show in a few minutes, I show many things which are the main focus of Go2. And because I'm not so fast in doing and showing stuff, and this tutorial took me 3 days to make, and that's why it is, of course, in 5 minutes very compact. But anyhow, so I'm showing it now more in the flow of this live stream. And here we have a pad sound. So talking about different sounds, I mean, I just had this sound. Was a bit edgy. Oh, sorry, not that one. Where was it again? No, this one. Always use distortion, and it's a bit aggressive, more aggressive, but it can sound also very mellow. Well, this is a pad sound. Which type of distortion, somebody is asking. I don't recall it anymore. I thought I picked one which was very suitable for this product. I don't recall it anymore. I have to look it up. Well, what is different in this pad sound, because we have all the controls visible, but there is a modulation matrix down here, and this modulation matrix offers some cool features. So what I do here, for instance, the free LFO modulates the oscillator up spread. I will explain it a bit later on about the oscillator. But you see, I use offset to change the filter of the unison. So unison filter 3, unison filter 2 have a bit different setting. Let's play it live. So down here, so one channel and the other one channel. And you can hear that this is 3 unison. So 3 unison means that one stays in the middle, one voice in the middle, one goes to the left, and one goes to the right if you use this spread up here. And then you can detune it. But the unison filter is a modulation target, which means that you also can tweak the unison sounds a bit. And I use this now to make this sound more stereo. Just by having a bit of frequency difference, you get a very nice stereo sound. So that's very special inside Go2. You have all the controls visible, but if you want to go deep, we have plenty of stuff which you can modulate. The global parts, unison you can modulate. So here's the list of what you can modulate of unison. The max unison is 4, so you can fine-tune, for instance, unison 4, the fourth voice, or change the morphing of this voice. Of course, I will go back to the morphing in a second. So, or for instance, you can also modulate and change the FX section, which is on the right side. You see we have a chorus, we have a phaser, and a delay or reverb. First there's a chorus, then you can say flange or phaser, and then there is delay and or reverb. Okay, but you can modulate it, I told you, so there should be somewhere a sound which shows this. Let me see. Here it is. On step 11, this again plays chord, but on step 11, I use the free row on step 11 to add the reverb mix. So the reverb is here, the mix is closed, and now I use the free row to give on step 11 this reverb. So in the little details, it's a very modular synthesizer because of the modulation matrix, which you can see here, 1 to 4, 5 to 8. Okay, so I go from one thing to another. Maybe I should go now back to the roots, to the basic thing of Go2, which is of course the oscillator / XY. We combine that. Somebody's asking, no, you can only use one at a time. So you either can use delay or reverb. That somebody is asking this. Okay, so let's go to the, because we have a very different oscillator. Okay, I'm looking now in the Bank Manager to see for some presets. Let's go maybe here to the pads. Okay, well, you see here we have the oscillator, and it looks as it is one oscillator, but essentially you can use, if you use spread, it turns in a 2 oscillator sound. So you can use one oscillator, or by using spread, it turns in a 2 oscillator sound, which detunes. Now, and the cool thing about this oscillator is that you can morph between 2 waveforms. So you can wave A and wave B, and this in several ways. So now this one uses mix, and I use the XY to, and you see the Y is connected to this morphing. So it morphs now to another waveform. And I can pick here a different type, a morphing or ring modulation or FM. Then 2 waveforms are FM modulating each other, wave shape. Interpolate or range. And range means that it goes from one waveform to the other waveform. And I'll show you a preset in a second. But so there are different ways you can morph from one wave to another waveform. Yeah, and of course the XY has a lot of added options. One second, edit. And here 2 points, but I can say also 128 points, but I can, for instance, command to use, for instance, a circle. But maybe did you already saw in, for instance, Bluetooth or Predator. So the people who have Predator 2 or Bluetooth will recognize this feature of the XY and what it all can do. So there are a lot of options with this XY to change the sound in a dynamic way. And let's see, synth sounds. This sound uses the waveform in the slider, so I can go down here And now the mode in morphing is not morphing, but it's range. And range means that you have wave A, which is waveform 54, and waveform 73. And now it moves from wave 54 to 73 with this preset and by using the XY. So you can see we have a lot of waveforms on board. The traditional waveforms, but also a lot of spectrum waveforms. In total, if I'm not wrong, 128 waveforms. So I can essentially could say I start at spectrum waveform 73, which is the last waveform, and start from the sinus and go from sinus up to the other ones. And of course I can do it very slowly. Let's do it slowly. Of course, this XY in combination with the morphing, yeah, you have so many sound-wise, so many options. Let me play a few presets. Let me see. Let's go here. Of course, I can use the pitch bend in the modulation matrix to control the speed of the XY movement, make it slower. So there is a speed dial also up here, but you also can change the speed by using the modulation matrix and use, of course, the pitch bend, for instance, for it, which I like to use. Then I shut down the pitch bend up here and use the pitch bend down here to control the XY speed. So there's a lot of options on that base. Okay, let's go to the introduction bank. Of course, the demo version can be downloaded very soon. And already, I think it's already up if I'm not wrong. Yeah, maybe the cool thing about this synthesizer is that we have it for a very attractive price. It's $49 or 49 euros. And that's, of course, a bargain if you look how many things you can do with this synthesizer and how it sounds. Of course, in terms of features and amount of preset, Go2 and Predator 2 are much deeper and have far more presets. But that's also the concept of the Go2 is to have, less is more, so that you have a synthesizer, everything visible, not trillion pages where you can go and do some deep editing, but straightforward, and still you can get some fantastic sounds. This display, that I'm not sure if we're gonna have that one in the rack extension. People will ask, will there be a rack extension for propeller head? We're working on that one, but I'm not sure if we can have this waveform display because we have a little bit room, not so much room in the rack extension. There's always a certain width, which is the max. But there will be a rack extension of Go2, hopefully at the somewhere in May, and also in May we hope to have the to have Go2 Anchor S compatible, so that you also can browse using the native instrument Anchor S system and have some controls over here. So that's also planned for in May. Okay, I wanted to show you a few presets. Just play a few presets, and for the ones who are joining later. You especially will hear that in the arpeggiator we have some very cool features that, for instance, the arpeggiator can play on each step a different chord. Well, you also can hear that we have a filter on board and a second high-pass filter. That's also inside Go2. I'll play next one. Of course, the sequencer of the arpeggiator can also work in sequencer mode, and in sequencer mode, so there are very nice details inside Go2. The sequencer or the arpeggiator can in sequencer mode, and then we also have these special tie modes. And these special tie modes means if you use a tie note, that you still can change the pitch. So when I shut this down, normal, you can see that step 7 and 10 and 15 have a tie note, so essentially note 6 is expanded by note 7. So let's play it. Now with special mode, it's still a tie note, but then it still plays the different tuning, so and velocity setting. Let's make it a bit higher in pitch so you can hear it very clear. So let's see, 24. Special mode, let's go normal mode. Now again the special mode. And you also hear that there is a glide. I made also the glide action. And there is also tie mode, toggle 1 and toggle 2 and toggle 1 first place. The special mode and then normal. And you got also the other way around, toggle 2. Well, I can see that we have a bug here because it doesn't do what I want to do. So I need to write it down. So the arpeggiator is very deep. It has the function. Okay, let's play a few more. I think especially for people using minimal house, techno stuff. Also here uses the unison mode, minor add 9. So we have in unison mode not only unison, but also special modes like 2 octave, 3 octave. And then we have several chords. The max is 4 notes. So in this case, now let's pick a minor 7. And here in the sequencer, if it's minus 7, it plays the minus 7. But if I want to have on step 12 not a chord, I can say none, and then single the note. So set means in this row that it uses the unison, which is up here. So I also could say unison 3, and detune it, spread. Oops. Make a bit more spread. Okay. So now I set it to set, and you hear only unison notes. Now I can say step 9, pick there for me a minor 7. Okay, let's hear on step 9. So you can do some very different grooves. Oh, let's play a few of them. Let's see. Yeah, of course, you have the search category where I can simply pick up chord or sequencer. Well, take here. That one I had, that's minor. Just in the bang now from Richard. This one uses minor in the play mode. We have, of course, over 600 presets in this version. Okay, let's go to this one. And in this one, this is a nice bank from Solar. He uses the free row to control the amp sustain. So there's also in the sequence a free row which you can address to any of the parameters of Go2 to do some really different stuff. And the modulation wheel controls also the sound. Let's see where you have 8 slots, 1 to 4, 5 to 8, and the modulation wheel is addressed to the oscillator S-mod amount. So that goes down the moment when I open the modulation wheel. There's less modulation. This is the symmetry modulation. So there are all kind of different things you can do. Although from the first sight, maybe you think, okay, this is a not such a complex synthesizer, but it's very deep if you go into the modulation matrix, and also because of the fact that there are so many parameters you can address. So well, the XY, of course, it can be used to change the waveform, the morphing, but you also can address it to the filter. So if you want to make wobbles, special stuff. Okay, let's go back here. I have for one, maybe better here. Yes. And now it's used to also to control the filter frequency, the X direction, the Y direction using does change the filter frequency. You also could add the high pass filter. Yeah, it's we have several presets on board. These are wobbles. And because we have the amp section distortion, you can go also very edgy, as you can hear. And the fun part is just pick another waveform and you are totally again in another thing. Of course it has some classic basses. Just playing a few basses now here. Because of the many digital waveforms. What is also the case, we have inside the oscillator, we have a sub-oscillator, and if you double click, it goes in the middle, no sub-oscillator. If you go to the left, you have a sinus waveform as sub-oscillator. If you go to the right, a square. Okay, this is a one oscillator sound with the sub-oscillator. As mentioned earlier, this Go2, it looks like it has just only one oscillator, but that's not the case. Of course, you have unison, which makes it very full. I have a multiple oscillator sound, so when I go here to the this is typical unison. But this uses 4 unison detuned with spreading. But also here you can see that the oscillator is also spread. So now when I go here to classic lead, just a saw waveform. and you hear kind of phasing. So now I use a bit of modulation, but essentially if the spread is 0, it's a single saw wave now. When I open the spread, it becomes a 2 oscillator sound, 1 oscillator pitch down and 1 a bit up, so that it stays in tune. So you can do pretty much a very good classic synth sound. Big brass. This one uses then also a bit unison. So can sound very analog type-ish, but there's also this is a nice lead sound. So in the play mode, for instance, it has 16 voice polyphonic mode, but you can have also legato play mode. So it's a distortion type. Okay, I have more of these. 1 second. This one uses then now the XY and changes from one wave to another in this lead. Listen. Can really make some nice lead sounds. When I pull down the distortion, you can hear that the distortion have pretty much an influence on the sound. And now with distortion. Yeah, well, this looks as a simple synthesizer, although for many people would be, oh, a lot of controls. But if you compare this with the other Papen products like Go2, Go2, this one has essentially only 1 page, which is pretty unique for a Papen synthesizer. Because I love features, don't get me wrong, I really love features, but there's also something very cool about having something simple. And that's what I told in the start of the tutorial, or the live stream, sorry, is that yeah, we have a Jupiter 8, for instance, here, and we have a Roland SA101. Both are very cool instruments. They have a different focus, and you do simply different things with it. And this is a pretty much a very fast synthesizer in terms in working. I mean, you don't have to go clicking a trillion pages to get a certain result. Of course, it will limit some things down, but a good sound is, of course, a good sound. So just like this lead sound. And of course, we have some pretty nice presets by several people. So play now. So this one uses the chord again, so we can go any direction. Okay, 1 second. This is a nice one. So the XY, you can edit it. So if you click here, edit, it goes visual, and then you can change the points. Sometimes when I do a kind of movement, sometimes I take lesser points, which is sometimes then easier to edit. So there are a lot of features inside of it, and if you are abstracted by the waveform, you can shut it off. So this oscillator drawer you also can put on off. Okay, XY modulation, let's see what that is. Oh, this is a sound where you can see use 8 points, but you also can change the space so that it responds to the space. You see these little green things, so it catches on the space, which is then divided in 8. But you also can have the movement chopped. In this case, it's 1/8 note. Or you can say no. Then it's some more following the space. So you have a lot of cool features you can do only already in the XY pad. And yeah, plenty of good presets on board already. Just let me play a few. Let me check. By the way, the reverb is really the high quality reverb. It doesn't make any sense in my vision to put a reverb inside of it which doesn't sound well, because the reverb is very critical in terms of algorithm, and you really got a top-notch reverb algorithm inside Go2. Okay, I'll just play a few sounds. So really can hear it has a very different type of character to it. You can have a classic yeah, okay, let's see, where is that one? No, I don't see it, of course. Oh. That one we had already. Okay, I'm looking for, okay, classic basses. Just pretty analog sounding. Just one oscillator. Sometimes that works perfect. So any direction you can go with Go2. Okay, let's play a few more, and then I move over to the okay, let's do maybe a few more pads. I like this one also, it's very dark. Yeah, many presets from Audition. I just had a few which are fantastic. Also, sometimes very edgy stuff, but Rob Fabry made some cool stuff. Like, okay, let's play one here. It's a hard sound. Let's see. Yeah, it even can do bass drums. Let's see, where is it? I was looking for one particular sound. Yeah, you got the minimal techno sounds here. With the chord mode used. Yeah, we have a bank from Solar which has some great presets. In the tutorial I start with this one, which is a very nice guitar sound. Okay, let's take another one. So over 600 presets here. So you can see in this sequence he uses on each step something different. Major 7, 3 octave. You can make some very cool grooves with this. Okay, let's go to another one. I'm toggling very fast between the, well, this house type stuff. Okay. And then, of course, if you have a nice groove, it simply syncs. You have a swing function. I think especially for a minimal house, you can have really some cool stuff. Okay, let's see if I have another one. Here you can hear the phaser. So the effects are in series. So it starts with the chorus, then you got flanger or phaser, and you got delay or reverb. Okay, now let's go back to because I was telling a lot about the product. Rob, is it possible to set the scale in the sequence? I'm not sure what you mean with scale, but we have at the back panel you can select different tunings. So you can have Arabic tuning, Burmese, Chinese, Indian. So different tunings are possible with Go2. Maybe that's what you mean. I'm not sure how the chords will work out, because I'm not sure if the other tunings have the same type of chords. I'm checking just B minor. Well, C is of course the root key, and let's go. Let's see if I have an echo. Now it takes from this C, it makes this, builds up, for instance, now on step 11. Or maybe let's just do it from step 1. I take a -7, okay, and I extend that one, so that sounds very long. A bit longer decay. Oh, by the way, did not mention it. The amplifier, filter amplifier, and the amplifier envelope, you can see it's graphic. You see, I can move it around. But if you're more used to dials, you can go up here and say, okay, use dials. So then you have an alternative. We also have dials. Okay, but now back to the chord. So now if I hit a C, it plays -7 on the C. But if I detune this tab again to, let's say, 7 semi, it essentially, the first note plays a G. So by each step, by moving the semi, you also can even have different root settings from the chord. Of course, it's not in this way dynamic, because if you move again from one note to another, it not always will fit, but it's more a groove thing for making very interesting grooves with Go2. 1 second. Oh, this is the mud leader. By the way, what you see move here is the symmetry control. So when I shut down the distortion, S-mod means symmetry control. You see the waveform has a left and right side, and this is a square waveform. If I change the symmetry, it becomes more narrow. And the symmetry modulation does this automated by using a speed and LFO. And this is of course very nice on digital waveforms, but also if you like to do some unitype of basses, which should be inside of this. It's really typical Uno sound. Sorry. Oh. So now you see the pulse width modulation. So oh, somebody is asking, is this part of the Explorer 4? No, this is a separate product. and we will tell this also in the newsletter. Go2 will cost €49, $49, and it's not part of the Explorer 4. It's a separate plugin. Of course, at a given moment later this year, once we have one extra new product, Explorer 5 will hit the market. And so, and then it will have Go2 and this new product. So what happens now if you have Explorer 4 and you would buy now Go2? Well, this means the moment Explorer 5 hits the market, we take that amount off the upgrade. So you still can buy Go2 now without losing any money the moment Explorer 5 hits the market. So if you have Go2 now and Explorer 4 and you see Explorer 5 is released, then you pay less for the upgrade. Okay, is that a bit clear? Okay. Let's see, other questions. I missed a lot of questions, so maybe you drop a question now, guys. We only have a few minutes left. I advise you to check the video. It will be around 9 o'clock. You will see the introduction video that tells a bit more about Go2, and then very compact in a few minutes. Okay, so the unison is unique. It has traditional unison, but also it offers other settings like octaves and complete chords. In the sequencer, it's pretty unique now because of the chord. Each step can have its own chord setting, and I just play that with some of the sequencers. There's another thing. We also have the button here, which is called exponential envelope or linear envelope. So if you have a pad sound, so this bass, you can see there's a little curve here that is using an exponential curve for the decay and release, which makes the sound snappy. But for pad sounds, linear curve is very nice. So you can also set to, linear. Then you see it's a straight line. So when I go now to the pad sound, you will see that most of the pad sounds having a linear decay and release. Now also you can hear the high pass filter. So we have different types of filters here on here. Not as much as the other synthesizers, but the most important ones we added here. And we have an additional high pass filter. And some might ask, why is this on-off button of the resonance in the high pass filter? Well, there's a very good reason for it, because resonance, what it does, if you have the frequency set to a position and you open resonance, it strengthens this point. So if your frequency is 500 Hertz with the high pass filter, it will increase this 500 Hertz. And if you have by mistake this frequency from the high pass filter on a very low setting, let's say 20 Hertz, which you see here up here in the upper part, you see where the mouse is, and now go back to the high pass filter, you see 20 Hertz, then essentially with the resonance you increase 20 Hertz, which is a very low frequency. That doesn't make sense. In 99% of the cases with the high pass filter, you don't need to use a resonance, only if you want to make a particular sound. So therefore we did have an on-off button for it, so that you can't make a mistake with it. But it is a very nice additional filter to get the low end away, or use it really as a additional filter. So as mentioned, the pad sounds, the you see this uses a linear decay. So it's very cool for pad sounds also. Yeah, it can do any sounds. So many waveforms on board, the traditional ones, so it's great for classic synth sounds, but also spectrum waveforms, which are fantasy waveforms. Sometimes actually analyzed harmonics from real instruments. Okay, I'm checking. So this is the pad sound. Of course, the sounds into amount of sounds is currently 600, but that will grow, of course. It's a nice phaser on board. Yeah, there are so many cool sounds on board, also from artists. Of course, our beloved Jumal. So this one uses range, so the changes in the sound is done. You also hear now the very nice reverb when I shut it off. Okay, shut off. You hear that we have a fantastic reverb on board. Okay, I'm just playing. You see the left two dials are connected to the morphing, so between the two waveforms, and on the right side you are free to pick any of the parameters which you like to control with the XY. Now it's in play mode, so it plays now an automated movement, but you can also do it live. Then you can change by mouse or use a MIDI controller for it. Wobbles. Yeah, you can hear it if you did join already a bit longer. You can really hear that it has a lot of different type of sounds. Okay. I told earlier that the oscillator is here, and if you have spread closed, it's essentially one oscillator, but you still can modulate it. So what I do now with this preset, the free envelope, which is here, controls the oscillator fine tune, which gives this little pitch glide. So the two oscillators, you can still modulate them. Okay, so see here, oscillator, and then you have, I'm not sure if that pops up in your screen, but there is a oscillator upspread semi and oscillator upspread fine tune. So you can pick one of these single oscillators and detune it separate. Let's see if I have a better example for that. Let's see where it is. Yes, of course. No, I cannot recall where I made it. Okay. Maybe I can do it now manually. So I picked the oscillator and the upspread. So you hear one of the oscillator has a pitch glide. So yeah, we are a bit at the end of the the live stream. It went a bit wrong because I wanted to play the tutorial, which is pretty compact in showing it. But if I'm not wrong, it's live now, this tutorial. I will check that in a second, but you can check the tutorial. And I think it's a very interesting synthesizer because you don't have all the features which the other synthesizers of ours have, but it's a nice best of for Papen and very user-friendly because everything is visual and it offers some very, very cool features. Somebody is asking about the rack extension version. Yeah, we are working on the rack extension. That will be somewhere in May. Of course, will be a bit more compact because the rack extension is smaller and it just fits. It will have the arpeggiator on the lower section, but of course it will have also the unique rack extension features on the back panel where you can have CV and gate inputs. So you can do some other stuff with the rack extension, for instance, compared to the VST version. So let me see, is maybe anybody and another question? Yeah, anyhow, thanks guys for watching. And as mentioned, check the tutorial. It will be up now about 5 minutes. And you can download the demo version already. This synth is out now. It's available, so you can purchase it today. Have fun today already. The price is 49 euros, $49. And we had a pleasure making it, and hopefully you will have also a pleasure using it. The last question is about the CPU intensive. No, it's not at all. My computers are a bit older. It's a i7 of 4 or 5 years old, 4-core, and I can do plenty with it. It's very good programmed by my partner John Iris, who did a great job again in coding Go2. And okay, guys, thanks, and see you around next week. We have another live stream. Maybe we dive again into Go2 and do some tricks and tips. Okay, thank you. Bye.